Good evening, friends. You are once again watching another episode of the Animation Commentator, hosted by yours truly. Now, I decided to really just post this video as more of a review on The Incredibles 2. Last weekend, my family and I went to go watch this wonderful movie, The Incredibles 2, and I thought I would give my thoughts on it. And just a big warning out there to anyone who might be watching this video. I know that this channel doesn't get a whole lot of views, but if you happen to be one of those few people out of the billions of people who are watching this video, just a warning, there are going to be some spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, then maybe you should come back and watch this video after you've seen The Incredibles 2. But, now that said, I will move forward. I want to do this as a two-part thing as far as The Incredibles 2 is concerned. This part is going to concern the story of The Incredibles 2. And then the next video that I do on this is going to explore what's the word I'm looking for? Analogy, yes. The parallels between the supers of The Incredibles and hand animation. But right now I'm just going to focus on the story. So, like I've said before, I love Pixar movies. Despite the flack I keep giving CGI oversaturation, I do love Pixar for the most part as a whole. And Pixar did not fail to deliver on its promises about The Incredibles 2. It had surprises. It had the fantastic family dynamics going on. So, big spoiler number one, I found it very refreshing that Winston Dever is not the villain, because honestly, he was built up by a lot of theory people and that kind of stuff, that he was going to be the next supervillain, that Winston Dever was going to be Screenslaver. And honestly, that's just a very big played upon trope in superhero movies and comics nowadays. There is this big rich guy, and he's so benevolent. He looks so benevolent to everybody, but he's really a criminal. Why can't we just have a rich guy who's genuinely a good guy? I mean, not every rich person is a bad person. And so it was nice to see that Winston Dever was not another Norman Osborn or Kingpin or one of those other rich dudes who looks like a good guy but is really a bad guy. That was very refreshing. It did surprise me that Evelyn Dever was actually the Screenslaver. I mean, I had the preconceived notion that she might have something to do with Screenslaver, but I didn't know. It took me off guard that she was the Screenslaver. I mean, after all, she's a woman, and Screenslaver is built to look like a guy. I mean, you just don't expect that. So that was a very refreshing twist. Of course, critics will say, well, there was either Winston or Evelyn. It was still a wonderful surprise. So don't ruin my surprise for me. So yeah, that was one of the great parts where the rich guy was not the bad guy. The rich good guy was also not a bad guy. Anyway, the Pixar animation was, of course, up to par. Of course, anyway, I'm not even going to touch the hand animation at this point. The Pixar signature Pixar animation was just fantastic, and it does get better every year, which is one of the weak points of CGI in my opinion. That it comes to look too much like live action, and then it's like, why even bother making the CGI movies if they look too much like live action movies? I mean, you could make live action movies on a much cheaper budget. Anywho, you can still, anyway, in this movie you can still tell the difference between the CGI Pixar animation and live action. So let's see, what's another part of the movie that I enjoyed? I like the new supers. Uh, Another spoiler. One of the new supers introduced was this guy named Crusher, and his ability was apparently to use magnetic fields to crush metal objects, even force fields. I mean, this Crusher guy was powerful enough to use magnetic fields to actually crush Violet's force fields. I mean, this was a pretty cool dude that you didn't want to mess with. So he was pretty awesome. He would have been nice to have given him a couple more moments as far as just a character development is concerned, but that was pretty awesome. Mr. Incredible, I mean, like, he is totally my favorite character of the Incredibles franchise, series, whatever. Um, and you just get to see more of his father side of him. I mean, the part of the fatherhood of him that has to deal with the kids, not so much the part of the fatherhood where you're expected to go to work and make a living, which as an aside, my personal opinion, men ought to provide for their families, but um, anyway, it's also good for the fathers to also spend time with their kids. So it was good to see Mr. Incredible have to deal with the stress of helping Dash with the homework and helping Violet, and through a boy problem that was partly his fault. Because another spoiler, Mr. Incredible told Mr. Dicker, the agent, the superhero relocation program agent, that Tony Ridinger had seen Violet without her mask on. So Mr. Dickerson pulls Tony off to the side, uses that special forgetting machine on Tony, and it totally wipes out the most recent memories of Violet from Tony's head. And so they aren't able to go to the movies that Friday night, or at least Violet goes, but Tony doesn't go because he totally forgot. And so Violet's all ticked off, and then when she finds out that her dad was partly responsible for that, she got really mad, understandably. So Mr. Incredible had to deal with that situation, and one of the most heartwarming moments was when you see this worn out dad just sleepy and sitting on the couch in their new house that Mr. Dever had lent to them. He's just sitting there, and Violet's standing there with him, and he's telling her, he's trying to make all the right decisions, and that he doesn't always make the right decisions, and that he's sorry. And then Violet tells him that she thinks that he's a super dad. But unfortunately, Mr. Incredible fell asleep when she told him that. Jack is a fantastic little baby. Like, I mean, you'd have to be a super person to have to deal with Jack. I mean, Kari, in the little Jack attack short, Kari was pretty super herself in the way that she dealt with Jack showing off his powers when Mozart was playing in the background. But this time, Jack just demonstrates his powers for the whole family to see. And his fight scene with the raccoon is pretty hilarious. And then there's the part where Jack bonds with Edna Mode, because Mr. Incredible, of course, as hinted in the trailers, Mr. Incredible did drop off his little son to be with Edna Mode. At first, Edna Mode didn't want to take on the job of babysitting Jack, but then another spoiler. Jack actually demonstrates the power of being a chameleon. And by chameleon, I mean, like, he can mimic the faces of other people. So Jack Jack mimics Edna Mode's face, and that just gets her to fall in love with Jack Jack, and she says, "Oh, sure, Mr. Incredible, I will take on the job. You just go and get your rest. Come back when I call you." And she builds like this really special gadget that can help the family track when Jack Jack's going to use a certain power. Frozone is awesome, once again. I just love his icy cool powers. And the fact that he's done by Samuel Jackson, I mean, I don't always like Samuel Jackson as a guy, but I do like a lot of his characters that he plays. Mace Windu is probably still my favorite character that Samuel Jackson's played. But yeah, he brings in more of the Frozone hilarity. Excuse me, I was coughing and I've paused the video for that. Anyway, so Frozone also apparently had a history with the Incredible. And before I get into that, so another funny side part of the story was the Incredible, because apparently the Incredible didn't get destroyed when Syndrome's plane fell on the house. And someone got his hands or her hands on the Incredible and sent it over to a car sales place. And it was being advertised on television that they were going to sell Mr. Incredible's car, and Mr. Incredible, being stressed out with everything else, his sons, his daughter, seeing the Incredible on sale, that just really ticked him off. He got out like this special remote control. He was about to summon that car, but then he decided not to. So it stayed there at the car lot for a little while longer. And then eventually, when the emergency happened, so Screenslaver Evelyn eventually gets those other supers, including Void and Crusher and Brick and those people. She gets them enslaved with those special goggles. And when that happens, that's when Dash, who saw his dad with the remote to the car earlier, Dash uses the remote and summons the car. So this is the part where I pick up with Frozone apparently having had a history in the past with the Incredible. I would imagine that there were times when Mr. Incredible and Frozone probably took that car out for joyrides together. So the car apparently, Frozone's voice was in the Incredible as part of the voice recognition program, and Frozone was able to actually help Violet and Dash get their voice prints recognized or initialized into the Incredible. And Frozone then helps the kids escape just before he himself gets enslaved by the goggles with Screenslaver. And of course, the one character that really stands out that I haven't really talked about yet is Mrs. Incredible, Elastigirl, as we all know and love her to be. So Elastigirl, she's at the top of her, and just as she wished in the first Incredibles movie, she is at the top of her game in this second movie. Like, her Elasticycle is awesome. It can split itself in half, and the two wheels, even when separated, can still operate on their own, which lends itself to allowing Elastigirl herself to stretch while still using a fully functioning motorcycle, Elasticycle. So that was pretty awesome. Elastigirl herself, she showed some pretty good detective work. She was very persistent. She never gave up. These are all character traits that I strive to have myself. And she was probably one of the best parts with her was her reaction when she saw Jack Jack hit his powers And no one had told her until near the end of the movie when Jack showed off for himself that he had the powers. So that was a very heartwarming scene to watch. So that's pretty much it. And another spoiler. So the Underminer got away. I don't know if he'll ever show up again. Maybe he'll pop up in another Pixar movie like Bon Voyage did. You see him in Ratatouille playing the part of some kind of pantomime clown or something like that. Which I intend to do a video on that someday. Like the whole Pixar theory thing. I think it's bogus, honestly. I don't think the movies are all interconnected, with the possible exceptions of a few movies. A few movies are undeniably connected, but most of the Pixar movies, it's just completely bogus. Like, sure, you've got a little props from the same movie, from one movie showing up in another movie, but honestly, I think it's just supposed to be Easter eggs, just nodding to the past works done by the Pixar CGI people. That's my thought on it. I mean, like I said before, The Incredibles and Ratatouille. There's no denying that those two movies are together. That they do exist in the same universe, because after Bon Voyage escaped Metropolis, or whatever that city is called, he did go on to live in France, and he was a pantomime in the background. So there's no denying that there is some connectivity in among the Pixar movies, but I don't believe all the Pixar movies are all interconnected like that. It's just, like I said, it's just completely stupid and bogus. And actually, there is one piece of evidence that supports my theory that there is no Pixar theory. But that's another video for another day. And for another thing, I'm not a theory guy. I just deal with facts, not theories. But I will play with that little theory. So, I just want to apologize for how late this video is in getting shot and uploaded. Fact of the matter is, I mean, as you've seen for yourself, this channel is not a mainstream channel. That's because I'm unlike so many other geeks or whatever. I mean, you got the mainstream YouTube channels. They're the ones that, you know, they got all this time on their hands. Like, they monetize their videos, whatever. They apparently have more than enough time to kill, and so you got people like the film theory people or whatever. They can spend all the time they want, I guess, doing their videos. Me, I've got a real job, and I try to do other things as hobbies, so it's not like I can work on these videos every week. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if there's anything choppy about this video, I do apologize about that too. But again, life is life. You have your life to live. I have my life to live. But like I said, I hope you enjoyed this non-spoiler-free Incredibles 2 movie and my thoughts on it. So have a great night, and God bless.